recording.
Good evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters and the East Bay Media Group, welcome to our forum for candidates for Senate District 14. Tonight, you will hear Democrat Valerie Lawson, the incumbent, Republican David O'Connell, and Independent Nicholas Ferrara. This forum will be followed in about 45 minutes by one for candidates for the House District 64. Democracy depends on educated voters, and the purpose of this forum is for candidates to answer questions that you have submitted so you can make an informed choice when you vote on November 8th. This forum is being presented by the League of Women Voters and the East Bay Media Group, of which Scott Pickering is the general manager, and he is our moderator tonight. My name is Susan Escherick, representing the League, along with our wildcard tracker, Donnie McGee, and our timers, Linda Poole and Mary Chase. The League of Women Voters has been holding candidates forums at local, state, and national levels since women got the vote in 1920. The League never supports or opposes candidates. We invite you to learn more about the League by visiting our website at www.lwvri.org. Tonight, Scott Pickering will be asking questions which have been submitted by the public, the campaigns, and League members, and which address issues that are important to these constituencies. Questions may be combined or paraphrased by the moderator. Each candidate will have the same amount of time to speak. Each gets an opening and closing statement and will be asked an equal number of questions. Each candidate also gets additional wildcards of 30 seconds each that she or he can use to expand on any issue, bring up a new subject, or lengthen his or her closing statement. Timers and recorders will alert the candidates of their time remaining and to ensure that each gets equal time. And now I turn the program over to Scott Pickering.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, everyone who's watching this, and thank you to the candidates. I always like to set the scene, so just so everyone knows, we are in a room at the Riverside Library. There's no live audience here. We are here, candidates and the volunteers and myself. If you're seeing the screen, we have we're using a piece of technology called an owl, which finds people's voices as they speak. So as the candidates speak, you'll see them pop up on the screen. You can see a panoramic of the room. It's not that exciting. It's just a bunch of us sitting around a conference room, but the content of the debate will be, of course, entertaining. All right, we predetermined the order for everyone to go. And first to open with opening statements is Valerie Lawson. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. And thanks to the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate, and for those of you who are watching at home. My name is Val Lawson, and I'm running for re-election to be the senator for District 14. I've lived in this community my entire life, and I'm proud to be a townie. I understand this community because I'm a part of the community. I've been fortunate enough to work with thousands of students and their families as an educator in East Providence for the last 32 years. My career began at Martin Junior High as a social studies teacher, and today I teach at my alma mater as a civics teacher. I'm also an elected leader in my union and have been an advocate for education and working families my entire life. It's been my honor and privilege to represent you in the Rhode Island Senate since 2018. And we've accomplished many great things over this time, but there's so much more that we need to do. And tonight I'm asking for your support and vote. I care deeply about our community. I believe in the power of everyday people coming together to create good public policy, and it makes a difference in everyday lives. And that's why I ran in 2018. I believe I've demonstrated this the past 4 years with your support, and I hope you'll join me in this effort to continue. And I'd be honored to have your vote on November 8th.
Thank you. Next, we have David O'Connell.
Hello, I'm David O'Connell. I live here in East Providence on Bright Ridge Avenue in the central area of the city. I'm interested in running for Senate because I think I can bring some of my experience as a businessman, a retired businessman now. My children are grown, and my experience in the community. I'm trying to being involved in a variety of fraternal organizations, parishes, and things like that. I also want to bring integrity and and the idea that everyone is treated fairly to the State House. My opponent, Senator Lawson, has compromised that, I believe, as she had mentioned, she is an official in the teachers union for the state. And in being that, she is of course paid for that. It's a paid position. But she has used that unfairly, I believe, because she has voted in favor of something called the Evergreen Bill, which helped the unions and made it harder for cities and towns and school committees to negotiate contracts. It basically extended the contract indefinitely to the unions so that they were in no hurry to make any negotiations. So I think that was a conflict of interest, and that seems to be a pattern sometimes in the State House. And certainly that was one instance that I think was unfair of the Senator Lawson to do. So I want to go up there and I want to treat everyone fairly, everyone equally, and I will represent each of you. If I try to help one group, it won't be to the detriment of another group. I will treat everyone fairly and equitably. Thank you.
Thank you. Next opening statement, Nicholas Ferrara.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Ferrara. I'd first like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on tonight, East Bay Media and moderator Scott. I grew up in the East Bay, but I've lived in East Providence for 21 years, which has been pretty much half of my life. I live with my beautiful fiance, Lisa, who works at Rhode Island Hospital, and our daughter, Jaylee, who attends Bayview Academy. I run as a registered independent because I truly want to help the average citizen get the footing that they need to live a less stressful and vibrant life, especially in the current economic pinch. Being a real estate broker, I feel I have a keen problem-solving ability that I could bring to the table to address the current situation that we are all dealing with, especially the rising heat costs that is going to play an instrumental role on working-class families over the next coming months. Thank you.
Thank you. So those are opening statements. I'm going to move to question and answer. I'll let you know, all the candidates know, at least one of my questions is open-ended and could go in any direction. So if you wanted to have some time with an open subject matter, you will. Is that
No, I prefer to address it now.
all right? Take one of your wild cards.
Thanks. So I just wanted to address what my opponent, Mr. O'Connell said. In regards to the Rhode Island legislature, it's a part-time legislature. And the issue that he's speaking about, the Evergreen Bill, there was actually a claim that was filed and it didn't have any merit. And there's a class. When there's a lot of people, there's a class, so therefore it doesn't apply. You have the ability to vote on things that apply to many people that are impacted by it.
Thank you. You may.
Okay. Just to clarify, I understand that a claim was made against Senator Lawson by the Republican Party to the Ethics Commission. The Ethics Commission gave her a pass, said that just because she was a teacher doesn't mean she couldn't vote on a bill. But for all of us, everyone out there and myself, to use just our common sense, if someone is paid by the unions as an employee, they shouldn't be voting on something that's going to be an advantage to the unions, not just as her as a teacher, but to her employer as the union. So that's where the fallacy works, in my opinion. And I think people will generally understand that. What the Ethics Commission came up with was their decision. It's a few people. I think most people would agree it was a conflict of interest.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move to question and answer. And again, there's at least one open-ended question that if you want to go deeper, you're both welcome to. I'm going to ask a question, the same question, each of you. You each have a minute to respond. We'll go down the line and we'll alternate who is the first to respond each time. So Ms. Lawson, we'll start with you. What can or should Rhode Island do in response to inflation, the cost of living, and economic stress that is impacting its residents?
So I think we need to address the economy on all different levels to provide relief for people. We did that in this year's budget. We eliminated the car tax for good. We provided child tax care credits for families. We removed the tax from military pensions. We've also increased retirees' level of taxation benefit from 15,000 to 20,000. So we need to continue to do things like that, as well as provide good paying jobs so people can have the ability to have a living wage and to meet the needs that they have. And part of good paying jobs is providing a quality education where people can get those jobs.
Thank you. Mr. O'Connell, same question.
Yes, regarding inflation, inflation is normally run by the federal government. They have too much money in the M1 money supply, and that's what inflates and creates less value for each dollar. But at the local level, there are things that can help people just in the state of Rhode Island. One thing would be to suspend the gas tax. We've been talking about it for the past few months, came up, I don't know, a while ago. And what are we waiting for? Why don't the people at the State House just do this? It's a small advantage that could happen to everybody who drives a car, which is most people, most adults are doing that. And it would be a small advantage, at least it's going in the right direction. The state of Rhode Island, the people in the state of Rhode Island could save up to $150 million a year by eliminating the car tax until the price of gas gets down to $2 a gallon. Then you can put it back on. But please give us a little break and do that. They could also refund the state budget surplus. Last year, we had over $600 million as a surplus above and beyond the budget monies of $13.5 billion that they needed. So here's $600 million plus. What do you do with that? You give it back to the people so that they can spend it on the things they need, a new set of tires, paint the kids' room over again, or just go on vacation. But they're going to spend it and help the economy. But the money really belongs to the taxpayers. It doesn't belong to the people at the State House. They should refund the budget surplus.
Thank you. Mr. Ferrara.
Well, while the economy is rebuilding overall from COVID, working class voters are still struggling financially. What you hear is that housing costs are extremely high and workers complain that low wages aren't in line with the progressive rate of inflation. I see this firsthand as a realtor where clients of mine are getting priced out of the market where, you know, they make 80,000 plus a year, but still cannot afford the housing they need. This is an issue I would like to focus on heavily: affordable housing first, and secondly, revitalizing our small businesses, which would hopefully gain more business in the city and provide more of a living wage to the taxpayers and the workers that are going to be working in small business. Now, I'd like to do this by taking a hard look at the tangible taxes, because as I speak to small business owners in the city, their biggest complaint is the amount of tangible tax they have to pay. Say they go and purchase this chair right here, they pay a sales tax on that to the state, but then get hit with another tangible tax. If the state could come in and somehow improvise and incentivize the state with, the city with funding, then the city could then provide relief to the small business to eliminate some or all or waive for some time their tangible tax. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move to a new question. Mr. O'Connell, we start with you. Would you make any changes to current Rhode Island gun laws?
No, they just passed 3 gun laws at the State House, and I don't have to enumerate them because people know mostly what they are. And the gun laws that we have now, I think, are quite sufficient to maintain good order and good gun sales. What's important about bringing safety, what we really want to do is bring safety to our schools. That's a primary place. And what we really need to do is fortify our schools so that there can be no threat that comes into them. In this past session, there was a proposal, a proposed amendment to give an extra $500,000 from the budget, to amend the budget, $500,000 to each of the school districts around the state. And that was a good idea to help them further fortify the schools. My opponent, Senator Lawson, voted against that bill. I don't know why, but it just makes common sense that if the main thing we want to do is not try to follow the psychos around the city, but to fortify our schools so the kids are safe.
Thank you. Mr. Ferrara, same question.
So I agree in being proactive rather than reactive. I am a believer in the Second Amendment, and I believe that guns do not kill people, people kill people. I think the red flag laws are something that should stay and be implemented, because again, it's proactive, not reactive. If you see someone that may have a problem where another underlying condition is mental health, they may have a mental health issue, you can attack that problem as a red flag and proactively try to pull that person's firearms away from them before a crime is committed. Like I said, the guns are not what's killing people, it's the people killing people and the criminals committing a criminal act. Now, it does make sense to have a safe storage law, but I don't believe it makes sense to have the age raised from 18 to 21. I feel in a federal court, that's gonna be found unconstitutional, because if these 18-year-olds are able to go and serve in our armed forces and handle these military-style weapons, who's to say that they can't go shoot recreationally, or better yet, even go hunting? So the 18 to 21 law, I believe, is something that will be found unconstitutional. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lawson, same question.
In regards to the three bills, I think that we've made considerable progress. And prior to that, I did vote to keep all guns out of schools except for peace officers. And as a teacher, I'm fully aware of the concerns. I'm not sure the bill that Mr. O'Connell's referencing, maybe it's an amendment to a bill, but I do support safe storage legislation, and 2/3 of the people that die by suicide of guns often have mental health problems, and safe storage may really help that situation. And I would support an assault weapons ban.
Okay, thank you. New question, Mr. Farrar, we begin with you. This might be a big sweeping question, so use your 60 seconds, however you say. I'll give you a lot of room to go in whatever direction. How do you assess what Rhode Island is doing in any of these areas? Clean energy, environmental protection, climate change?
So I'm not really an expert on the environmental cleanup or whatnot, but I do know it is a major crisis that we collectively need to tackle. I'm all in favor of the path to renewable energy by 2033. I do believe this is a very aggressive goal to meet. Is it attainable? Maybe, again, if we collectively all hit this very hard. You know, we are definitely in the midst of severe climate change, where within 1 week in the city of East Providence alone, we're experiencing extreme drought and then extreme flooding in the same week. So clearly something has to be done. I would like to be a strong advocate to save our green spaces. I think that is something that's truly incremental. Once we lose these spaces, they are gone forever. One tree can absorb up to 48 pounds of carbon dioxide in our environment. If we continue to cut these trees down for the feverish pace of redevelopment, and it's just going to be detrimental to our overall society.
Thank you. Ms. Lawson.
Sure. I think our work on the Act on Climate is a great step forward. I think now we need to work on meeting those goals. In addition to that, I supported the 100% renewable energy. Offshore wind helped secure $35 million for the South Key here to provide good paying jobs in East Providence around assembling wood turbines. In addition to that, I have a bill on climate literacy. I'd like to see this through, where we could infuse climate standards across the K-12 curriculum. It's something kids are really interested in, so they'd have information. In addition to that, we need to reduce transportation emissions and create an infrastructure that's more bike and ped friendly.
Sir O'Connell.
Yes, climate change. One thing to keep in mind is that Rhode Island is now the best state in the United States for its emissions per capita. We are a very clean state as it is, and we can be proud of that. That's really very good. But when I think about climate change and all the dangers that I described, what comes to the fore for me is rising sea levels. Now, I believe that many people are saying that the sea levels could rise more depending on how many degrees the Earth increases its temperature. So as the ocean state, we're the ones who have miles and miles of coastlines and shorelines. That should be a priority for us to study and investigate how we make sure that the people who are already living near the shore, businesses near the shore, they need to really need to prepare for what might be coming. And any new development should also take into account as a first priority, if it's near the shoreline or the coastline, that it's going to be anticipating rising sea levels.
Thank you. All right, new question. Ms. Lawson, we're back to you.
Okay.
The pandemic has had a detrimental impact on school and student performance. What should the state be doing to improve the public education system?
So I absolutely agree that COVID has disrupted learning. So some of the things we need to do are address the concerns around disrupted learning, provide social and emotional help, and address mental health concerns in schools. So we need to provide resources to do that. We need to look at the state funding formula around these areas to help ensure that kids' needs are being met in the classrooms. And we need to reach out to educators because they're the grassroots. I've seen it myself. And we can help kids move on and address the academic needs from the disrupted learning, as well as address social and emotional health issues, mental health issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connell.
Failing public schools in Rhode Island, we were embarrassed by the Johns Hopkins University study a few years ago saying how bad the schools were, particularly in Providence, but in general around the state. And it's really very sad because the cost of educating a child in public schools is about $20,000 a year. Whereas at LaSalle Academy or Bayview Academy, it's $12,000 or $13,000 a year. So we're shelling out plenty of money and we're not getting the results we should get. We have proficiency rates of 20% in math and 30% in English, and that's a shame. And it's been that way for years and years. So something has to change. And I think my opponent is part of the problem, and I'd like to be part of the solution. We need to get through the difficulties. What's keeping the public schools in such bad shape? It's not the problem of the teachers. Somehow the leadership is dropping the ball and they're saying, we'll fix it in 5 years or 7 years or whatever it is. And there's no excuse anymore. Our kids are being robbed. They go to work at local supermarkets and they can't do multiplication or division or even subtraction. And that's not their fault. It's the fault of the system. And that's unfortunate because the public schools children deserve just as good an education as the private school children. So there should be school choice. I think the parents should have school choice. And I think there should be more charter schools available instead of having what happened at the State House. They shut down any more charter schools. That's just wrong. They should allow charter schools to continue and grow.
Mr. Ferrara.
So I feel similar on that point. At $19,000 per student, a parent should have the choice on where they could send their child for their education. Now, I personally have a child in private school, and to hear that $19,000 per student for a public school student is more than what I'm paying at a revered private school. Now, this is the Northeast where we have many Ivy League colleges and whatnot, so I feel we need to fit a higher standard of our educational system. That being said, it starts at the top with the leadership and the school committees and not allowing the children to be a second thought, but to keep the leadership accountable and be transparent to the parents of what's being taught. I truly believe that this is something that needs to be further looked at, and I do want to be part of the solution.
Can I?
Yes, please.
I also would like to add that we increased budgeting for pre-K. So one of the things we need to continue that in Rhode Island. We need to make universal pre-K. We also need to address other needs of students. We should, since COVID has ended, we need to now look at a way to fund free lunch and breakfasts for students that have been taken away.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to just have a reset here for the candidates. So we're probably going to ask up to 8 questions. We've gone through 4, so we're halfway through. If you're thinking about pacing yourself with your wild cards and your time. So we'll move to our 5th question. Mr. O'Connell begins with you. This is one of the open-ended questions I alluded to earlier. Why are you a better candidate for this seat than your opponents?
My opponent, especially Senator Lawson, has special interests. She feels beholden to the people who give her a large salary. I believe her salary as the vice president of the NEARI is about $37,000 a year. That's very generous, and I'm happy she's there. But she has to take the time and realize when, just from an honest point of view, she should recuse herself from bills that directly affect her employer, that is, this teachers union. I'm going to go in and I'm going to have a wide open, free understanding of who I'm going to represent. I'm going to represent all the citizens, all the taxpayers, all the residents of the state, equally, fairly, and with equity. If I'm going to help one particular group of people, someone's going to come to me and say, can you help my particular ethnicity or my particular age range? Can you help us? I will do that. I will try to help particular groups, but not to the detriment of other groups who are out there at the same time.
Mr. Ferrara.
Well, I truly believe that the General Assembly is broken and the power struggle between the parties have put the concerns and needs of the citizens aside. All this political labeling has only prevented progression for what works for the people. Me being a registered independent, I do not walk to the beat of the drum of unions. I do not sit on municipal committees or councils. I am one voice for the people, and that's why I believe I am a better choice.
Thank you. Ms. Lawson.
I believe I have a deep understanding of this community, living here my entire life, teaching here for over 32 years, interacting with students and families, being in the classroom. My conflict is one that every working person in Rhode Island has. And I've never strayed from any, I've followed the guidelines appropriately. And I think over the last 4 years, I have a great record of accomplishment, and I've provided for many things that I've previously mentioned, as well as this summer I had a bill that provided expanded pediatric healthcare insurance for kids, pandas and pans, a bill on SNAP pilot incentive. So those are some of the reasons.
Thank
So I just have to recap on that, if I may use the wild card. So that's great that, you have a Mr. Lawson, that you put together a SNAP incentive, an apple for an apple, or however it plays out. But I'd like to know, and I think a lot of constituents, as I walk the doors and walk and knock on doors, would like to know, is where you were when it was time to address the PUC on raising the interest rates. I mean, the energy rates that are going to cost the average ratepayer $938 from now until March. Now you're asking middle-class citizens to be able to come up with an extra $1,000, and that's something that some people just don't have an outlet for.
So technically, you're not having debates with each other. You're welcome to use a wild card and respond if you'd like, or we can let it go. But it's fine. It's fine. You did, no problem.
Okay. But again, I'm bringing the voice of door knockers to the table.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna wait because I only have 3
Okay.
left.
All right. We're going to move to another question, starting with Mr. Farrar. Should the state government play a more active or less active role in creating affordable housing throughout Rhode Island?
I think they need to play more of a role in creating affordable housing in Rhode Island. And affordable housing in Rhode Island doesn't just mean developing apartment complexes under the guise of affordable housing where a certain amount of those units are under a certain income bracket. Because a lot of times that income threshold is a lot more than what we would call affordable for a low income family. Affordable housing to me also means being able to secure a safe haven for your family to live, being able to put food in their mouths and being able to pay all your bills. And again, going back to the heating crisis that is about to hit this area very hard, I think it's going to be tough for people to stay in an affordable situation, to be able to retain their housing and keep that affordable as well. So it's not just about building new developments of affordable housing, it's allowing an environment to retain in an affordable space.
Ms. Lawson.
I do think the state has to do more. We did put $250 million in the budget, and I think that's great, but I think we also need to make sure that people are educated, they know where resources are, where they can go. And I think our community deserves credit for reaching the 10%. It was just announced today. So we do have with Sutton Place, and we do have Ivy Place underway. But as a state as a whole, everybody deserves affordable housing, and we need to continue working on that and make sure all of the resources we have available in the state people are aware of and accessing.
Mr. O'Connell.
Yes, affordable housing. I've been very fortunate to be a volunteer on the Waterfront Commission here in East Providence. So I'm very much aware of the development and the requirements that the state puts on all cities. Obviously, East Providence is what I'm familiar with at Sutton Place and at Ivy Place and a number of other developments that are coming along that allow for affordable housing for people. I'm not an economist, but I would like to find out what is causing all of this. Why are the prices of renting going so high? That's where affordable housing really comes in. We know where the purchase of houses is going. There's been a shortage of supply and an excess of demand. That rate raises prices, and that's going to be suppressed a little bit now that the Fed has raised the interest rate. But I'd like to see what exactly is driving the force for rentals going so high. A lot of people are being forced to. Someone will buy a house or someone will decide that they want to raise the rent. And sometimes the rent will go up 20, 30, 40%. And that's unfortunate. I like to find out why.
Thank you. Our new question, Ms. Lawson, starts with you.
Okay.
What are your views on abortion and Rhode Island's current laws impacting abortion?
So in 2019, I voted to protect a woman's right to choose. Proud of that vote, was one of the reasons I decided to run. In addition to that, I support the equality healthcare abortion coverage. So I think those decisions are personal and they're between a woman and her doctor and her family.
Mr. O'Connell.
The laws that we have now are going to continue for a long time. They passed the omnibus abortion bill in 2019, as the senator had said. What I'm concerned about right now is the bill that's going to come up probably next year, and that is they want the taxpayers to pay for all abortions for anyone on Medicaid or anyone who's a state employee. Right now, the law allows and permits the state to pay for abortions for state employees and for people on Medicare if there is a condition of rape, incest, or the threat to the mother's life. And I understand that's already covered. Those abortions are paid for. But I think most of the people in Rhode Island don't want to pay for elective abortions in which there's no pressing need or no particular circumstance. And a woman simply wants to go and have an abortion just for her own personal choice. That's an elective abortion. And the people in Rhode Island don't want to pay for that, and I don't believe they should.
Mr. Ferrara.
I believe all life is precious, and I do believe that it is a woman's choice and no one can tell said woman what to do with her body. That being said, the laws have been codified in Rhode Island, and I have no interest whatsoever to initiate any kind of change to those laws. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, final question. Mr. O'Connell begins with you. Are there any specific issues we have not talked about yet tonight that are important to you?
No, we've covered pretty much what I had been prepared for, and that feels really good. I'd like to mention just a few other things, some details of what we talked about already. First of all, the Republicans proposed an energy relief budget amendment in this past year to try to help people, seeing that the electricity rates were going to go through the roof. And so the Republicans at the State House proposed an amendment to give some relief to people. Senator Lawson voted against that bill and that amendment. And that's unfortunate because we're trying to help people even in small areas. Anything that helps them even a little bit should be good. Senator Lawson also proposes that an assault weapons ban. First, before you're going to have an assault weapons ban, you have to define what an assault weapon is. And no one's done that yet. There are a number of firearms out there right now that could do just as much damage, that they wouldn't cause an assault weapon. It wouldn't cause a person to change their mind whether they want to do great harm. So an assault weapons ban doesn't make any sense. Finally, I would propose mandatory minimum sentences on people who commit a crime using a firearm. Some people commit a crime, they use a firearm and they get probation. That's just unfair. I think we need to protect the citizens of our state. And if someone uses a firearm to commit a crime, there should be minimum sentences so that they're going to spend guaranteed some time in prison for doing that very dangerous thing and very harmful thing.
Mr. Ferrara. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, yeah, Ms. Farrar. Yep, you're next for this question.
So what we didn't talk much about was the recent PUC energy increase hike with Rhode Island Energy. And that one fact alone, I believe, is going to be very, very detrimental to the middle class. So I think what we need to do, and I myself as a senator would like to focus on re-examining the eligibility guidelines for assistance for heating programs. Now, low income, they have theirs in place, but the middle class family is going to have to make a very tough decision this winter on whether they're going to be able to feed their family or heat their home. Again, it's not going to be easy for them to try to find an extra $1,000 to heat their home this winter. So that fact alone can very easily decimate our blue collar working class families. That's something that I would like to immediately focus on and bring relief to.
Thank you. Ms. Lawson.
One of the things I'd like to work on is to continue working on temporary caregiver benefits. I had a bill that passed a couple of years ago that expanded the number of weeks for a temporary caregiver to stay home with a loved one from 4 to 6 weeks in 2023. Extremely proud of this legislation, and I'd like to follow through this bill to increase it to 8 to 10 weeks. We are behind in Massachusetts and Connecticut, and also the amount of money that we give to dependents from $10 to $20 as well, and expand the language to grandparents and siblings. So that's one area that I would like to continue to work on. I'd also like to see the results of the SNAP pilot program and make that a permanent part of the budget. In addition to that, I did want to address the healthcare coverage regarding the Equality Abortion Act. So this is an equity issue in regards of accessing people being able to access healthcare. And I think everybody should have similar access to healthcare, and it shouldn't be denied.
Thank you. All right, that's the end of our question and answer period. We are going to move to closing statements. Everyone has a little bit of wild card time left. We're going to go in the same order as our opening statements. Ms. Lawson, you'll have a chance to go first with a minute closing statement and another minute of time added, so you have up to 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. Thank you. So one of the things that I did want to address, I think it's very difficult times here. All of us are facing that as a result of COVID and inflation. So we do need to make sure that we continue to address the needs of everyone. Totally agree with that. And that we did some great things in the budget that I had mentioned, the car tax, in addition to the child care. But we also need to make sure people are fully aware of all the resources available to address needs. And things like if people need assistance, United Ways 211, East Bay Community Action. But one of the things I did want to begin my closing with was thanking the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this once again. And thank you to all of you out there who participated in watching or sending in questions. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a townie, and I believe I have a deep connection to our community and a deep understanding by living here my entire life, teaching here over 32 years. I've been extremely fortunate to work with so many students and families and to serve as your senator since 2018. I'm proud of my Senate record, and I think I've shared many accomplishments this evening. But one other issue I'd like to address in regards to Mr. O'Connell's gas tax suspension. One of the concerns about the gas tax suspension is that they tried that in Connecticut and never really got to the consumer. It ended up with businesses taking the money, and we would have to make up the federal reimbursement for Richter and road construction. So that's a concern. So it's been an honor and privilege to be your senator here in Rhode Island. And I believe in the power of everyday people. And I humbly ask for your vote on November 8th. And thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. O'Connell, you have a minute and a half for your closing remarks.
Okay. Thanks to the League of Women Voters for having this debate. It's very exciting. I'm having a great time here. And I hope our audience can take what we've given them today. And if anyone wants to talk to me further about what I've done, I'm out there. You can find me on the internet. There's also my phone number. The gas tax suspension, if Connecticut is misusing it or corrupting it, we can put up a safeguard so that we're not misusing it and corrupting it, and we're going to give the savings on to the consumer. We can do that if we want to. I could, if you give it to me, I'll take care of it myself, but that's not the way it works. I'm going to go to the State House and I'm going to care for everybody. I'm going to serve everybody. I'm not going to have any special interests like the current senator has. I will give equal time and equal fair play to everyone who's out there and trying to make this a better state, the state that we all love. As far as access to abortion and healthcare, we have to remember that pregnancy is not a disease, and a woman who is pregnant is not sick. A person is completely healthy when they're pregnant. If she wants to have an abortion, it's her choice. If there's no extenuating circumstances, no one is preventing her from getting an abortion. She is free to do so. But I think most people in the state don't want to pay for elective abortions. And finally, the schools. Senator Lawson is a teacher, has been a teacher, as she said, for 38 years. I'm sure she's a fine teacher. But being a representative at the State House as a senator, I think she has fallen down in not getting these schools working properly as they should.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Ferrara, you have a minute, 2.5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate you taking your time to moderate this session, and also a big thank you to the League of Women Voters and East Bay Media for putting on this mini production here. I truly believe it's a time to reset. As an independent, I am very happy on the fact that I am self-funded in my campaign, which means I don't serve any masters, I don't serve any third-party interests, and I don't sit on any committees, councils, or what may have you that may draw a special interest. I'm in nobody's pocket. And that, I believe, is a simple fact where I'll be able to bring back integrity, accountability, and transparency to our state government. The housing crisis, saving green space, mental health, infrastructure, especially educational funding. Those are just a few of the essential issues that I'd like to address should I get the granting vote from the taxpayers of the community of District 14. I truly want to serve you. You are who I would be serving. And that is something I hold a lot of pride in, again, being an independent. So again, I'm Nick Ferrara, running for District 14 Senate. I humbly ask for your vote on November 8th. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all. You have some closing remarks? Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you to all of our candidates for running and for participating tonight. It's so important for the people, the voters, to hear what you have to say before they choose. Thanks to Scott, thanks to the East Providence Library providing the space and technology for the forum, and thanks to our volunteers who spent many hours to organize and present these forums. Election day is November 8th, but you can cast your vote early in person tomorrow. And from then through the election day. And you can also vote at City Hall on Saturday on November 5th from 9 to 1. We found out today that we will be having a forum for the mayoral candidates next Tuesday. And we couldn't use the library, so we were able to get the council chambers. So it will be next Tuesday, October 25th at 5 p.m. at the council chambers, and as many people as would like to come who can fit can come. So we'll be live for the first time since COVID. This recording will be on our website from tomorrow through Election Day. So be sure to view it, review it, and support democracy by casting your vote. Good night.